number now if you want to chat a real man.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to yet another episode of the Bald and Bonkers Show. On Saturdays and Sundays, check every inch of the web to find the latest episodes. The boys are everywhere, and no matter what anyone may try, they are here to stay. If the name hasn't warned you yet, then consider this as your viewer discretion advised. No one can restrain these two idiots, so here they come unleashed upon the world, only to become as insane as reality itself.
What are you freaking out about?
Says he changed my name. He said, ladies and gentlemen, see, this is terrible. He was talking about how he loves to go to like Bangkok and all that kind of places.
Oh, Bangkok was awesome, man.
And he also was going on about putting probes on our online store on Amazon.
Oh, Jesus. No, we can't put probes. Saying, no. Hey, we just have a very kinky we have a very kinky audience. We'll just say that. They're into that type of freaky shit. I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. Some of the audience will watch this next week. Some of the things that they get up to, you know.
I know, it gets to be a little shady. But for those wondering what the hell is Chris talking about, we actually now have an Amazon shop set up. The link is right there in the chat as well as on the screen. Feel free to check it out. It's product recommendations. We do earn a small commission off of every sale, but it does not affect the price to you. There's books, there's occult supplies, all sorts of fun stuff, and we'll try to include the list about outside projects Bald and Bonkers members do, some of the stuff from our guests, fun stuff like that. There we go. There's the plug, so nobody gets offended.
Just one other thing. Do you get glow in the dark? What do you call them, probes? Because that'd be handy for like ET in the dark night. Because if Alien Galactic Command could be watching this transmission next week, and they'll be thinking, do you know something? Chris,
why would they wait? Why would they wait until next week? They could be watching right now, and they're going, "What the hell is wrong with these two idiots?"
Well, that's the thing. They're probably watching the news. Ken, Chris has got a point, because sometimes when we beam into somebody's bedroom, we stumble about for an hour, all the furniture and stuff like that in the pitch dark, and then sometimes we accidentally drop the probe, and then we can't fun it. A glow-in-the-dark one. That's a brilliant idea. What?
I don't know what to say. I legitimately don't know what to say.
What? It's you that's going on about putting stuff. Last week he was going on about them, you know.
No, you're the one who was wanting me to send you the link to the barrels of lube you can get on Amazon.
Yeah. What was that you were saying, that guy that we've got on the Mora? Is it Nando?
I noticed that when we got to talking about probing with him, he obviously clenched up like a little bit, like he was just coming off of a fresh experience. Maybe we might have to supply him with some stuff tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, the younger generation, they're into that kind of thing, you know. They're into that kind of thing.
No.
Podcast listeners out there, I'm pointing at my co-host when I said that. So, Dakota, what are we talking about tonight? What is the strange and unusual thing that we are going to encounter tonight?
Well, I don't know how the hell our little banter right there is supposed to segue into this, so I'm just going to say it. Last time, when Chris was doing his latest episode of Ghost Squad Scout, he got to talking about Rosslyn Chapel, and he wanted me on because of my musical expertise and how many of the cubes actually give off kind of different frequencies that if you actually play things just right with some sand and sheets of metal, the sand will actually form in the shapes that are carved onto those cubes. So, being that we didn't exactly have anything planned for today's episode, why not go into talking about resonance anomalies? You know, anomalies seen within light and sound that might explain some of the weird shit that we got going on now, because allegedly, here soon, Yeah, shithead. Anyway.
Yes.
According to Dr. Mike Casella and Elena Dinan, there's actually going to be some revelations of some very incredible technology coming out of Egypt very soon. So something to be on the lookout. But nevertheless, we don't necessarily need fancy technology or ancient tech to realize that we already have some weird shit going on, like the cubes at Rosslyn Chapel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been looking forward to this because I don't have a clue in res, say, frequency thingy. I mean, I listen to them to relax, like 900 and something hertz or like 1,000 hertz or something like that to help me relax. But I actually don't know anything about this. I mean, I know that there's devices in your house that can give off frequencies like microwaves. A lot of people don't realise that, but they actually give off frequencies. There's a lot of electronics in your house that give off frequencies.
Everything from the wiring in your house to the computer or cell phone you're using to listen to us babble.
Yes. And the headphones that you have on your head right now, every now and again you'll hear a frequency come through.
Every now and then. I mean, even your pet goldfish, while small, does give off frequencies. There's a magnetic and sound anomalies that come off of just about everything. And people don't exactly realize how much power one would have if you knew how to utilize frequencies just right.
Did you know actually? I'm sure it's the United States have actually got a crowd control device that puts out sound frequencies that can control the crowd.
It's a form of direct energy weapon, and what it essentially does is plays sound at a certain frequency to where it builds up air pressure. And what it does, if you stand behind the device, you won't hear anything. But if you're being attacked with this thing, you're going to actually feel yourself having to compete with the sound that comes out. You're going to hear your ears ringing. If you have too much exposure, or if they have the setting turned too high, that just sound alone could actually cause your internal organs to implode.
I mean, that's just downright scary. But there's also in the ET side of stuff and on the scientific side of things, sound waves can heal you. They can basically regenerate like cells in your body.
Yeah, it's actually been found, and there's a lot of research trying to go into more of this because, okay, everybody knows that, say, gamma radiation, just as an example, even, if you went to school 40 years ago, you know that gamma radiation can actually fuck with your DNA.
Yeah.
It's actually where it's believed to cause several birth defects, can trigger cancer. In fact, did you know, Chris, we've had this discussion off air, but for everybody who's listening who may not be familiar, they found that some of the dogs that live in the Chernobyl disaster zone have actually... It is actually believed that from their exposure to the leftover radiation and just the fact that they're an isolated population, that these are actually becoming new species of dogs. And this could very well be branching out to every other form of wildlife because for some reason, for an area that's supposed to be desolate because of what happened, so much wildlife is actually returning and thriving.
Just look at Fukushima. The same thing's happening there. But there has been weird things that folk have found. They found like weird kind of genetic defects in some animals. Some animals have got like an extra eyeball or something like that. I mean, or some of the cattle have been born with two heads.
Well, yeah, you can. That actually can be done without any excess radiation in the area. So, unfortunately, it can bring about increased likelihood of genetic anomalies. In fact, species like frogs, turtles, fish, stuff like that, they can actually be referred to as indicator species to tell if an area may have some sort of contamination because of how easily their genetics get manipulated and how easy new mutations can come forward. Like the whole few years ago where in some fishing ponds outside of a nuclear power plant, somebody literally found a three-eyed fish, like off of The Simpsons.
Yep.
That happens.
I've heard this, right, I don't know if it's true or no, but the sun gives off frequencies when it's, well, obviously because it's like a fusion reactor, it's giving off frequencies. But does that, if you think about it, a nuclear reaction is giving off like maybe frequencies. Could you use frequencies to make electricity?
Oh yeah. And Nikola Tesla was trying to do stuff like that, but he got shut down, and we're slowly rediscovering and re-implementing things that Tesla was making with basically the equivalent of a backyard shed compared to a lot of this stuff. You know, kind of the or use kind of more pop culture example, how Iron Man was able to build a suit of armor with scraps out of a cave that everybody else couldn't.
Amazing, you know. I always found that interesting, you know. But I mean, how do frequencies heal you? How do frequencies heal you?
You would have to be able to. Okay, how do I say this? I'm trying to keep it simple, but okay, let's say as an example. Say you're kind of having a bad day, and you're not necessarily wanting to talk to anybody, but you feel that. So you listen to sad songs to try to let yourself feel the emotion, or if you're going on a workout, maybe you listen to something a bit more high paced tempo to get you going. That's sort of the basis of it. We already know that certain lights and sounds can actually affect bodily functions. So the idea was, could it be on a molecular level? I believe it was actually a study out of Russia that found that if you can figure out what cells respond to certain lights, you can actually completely cure allegedly incurable conditions.
Yeah.
They found that.
I've always found it interesting because I'm a sufferer from migraines. I get migraines all the time, right? And I've had one in the night. But I find you can go to YouTube and you can get like migraine relief, and it's tones, it's sound frequencies, right? I think it's 975 hertz or something like that. And if I listen to that for 1 hour, my migraine's gone. So it must be doing something. It must be doing something to the blood vessels in my head. But getting my mind run about that is just how?
Exactly how? This is kind of one of those things where experimenting with it kind of involves some unethical practice when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Because they even say that it may be possible for a human to completely regrow limbs that they have lost if they're treated just right. I mean, think about it. Stem cells. They're a type of cell that can be induced into so many different conditions to completely create new blood vessels, new organs, depending on the conditions they're exposed to. We already know this. So it's well known that you can manipulate the world just using lights and sound. In fact, we go to the more mystical side of things, Rosslyn Chapel.
Yeah.
A lot of the frequencies are actually purposely meant to induce. Some say they try to open up the chakras, but it has actually been found that those sound frequencies can affect neurological centers of the body.
I mean, obviously, I've got a theory about this. I mean, everywhere you look in that chapel, it's got you've got life and death, you've got genetics, you've got all this, and I'm wondering if the Holy Grail is, because everybody's watching this, the Holy Grail is meant to be in Rosslyn Chapel. You just need to look at the film. What's that film called again?
I think it was Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. Everybody thinks it's a cup that gives you life, but you think about it, right? Say it hypothetically. Say that in Rosslyn Chapel, these cubes are basically codes to make sound waves, right? And maybe in the tomb underneath the chapel, there's a device of some kind that you can upload this sort of tune into, and it heals you, right? Because let's face it, what did the cup of Christ? What did the cup of Christ do for you? It healed you. It gave you new life. So what happens if that's what it was? Maybe, this is maybe going to piss off some religious folk here, but what happens if Jesus wasn't exactly the person that he made out to be? What happens if Jesus was maybe an extraterrestrial that came here and he had this device with him, right? And through the ages it was buried and it was used and then it was sealed up. Why would you seal something like that up? Because I just find it interesting because one side of the church is all lovely and light and they should love life, but then the other side of the church is all demonic. And that all started around about the 1700s when the church started to come in. See where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Because what would the church think if you had a device that could heal any ailment, right? Make you basically live forever, right? That's wrong in their eyes because you're only meant to live for a certain amount of time, then you die and then you go to heaven or whatever. So that's why they would seal it away. That's why they would hide it away. You know?
Mm-hmm. You know, I just had a thought.
What?
We got to talking about the kind of experiments. You're wanting to try to sound all fancy. It's like, let's get an AI program in there and map the sound. Okay, I know what you're getting at, but here's the thing. Now this is coming from me because I'm a musician, and something that I've actually never told you is that apparently where my kind of ear for this type of stuff comes in actually comes from my great-grandmother, who was a concert pianist who actually toured. I actually think, if I remember correctly, this involves retrieving some deleted emails. No, I'm not Hillary Clinton. But I think she actually spent some time at Rosslyn Chapel, if I remember correctly.
Do you want to know something that's going to spook you? It's going to spook you to the core. See, my grandmother that came for the curry next to Rosslyn Chapel. Do you know what she did when she was young? She did it for about 10 years. She was a concert violinist.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, back then, see, my grandma, she was actually born in 1935. Passed away back in 2018. That was actually the grandma that I told you passed away while I was at Loch Ness.
Well, that's actually quite good. My grandmother was born in 1912.
It's like, well, we got almost 20 years difference between our physical bodies right now. But anyway, no, it's like, no. What she would actually used to tell me is that obviously they don't have the sound mapping technologies back then that we do now, say like that concert venues would be able to use in order to best distribute the sounds so the music sounds good, right?
Yeah.
They had to play this all by ear. So one of the things I would kept saying about Rosslyn Chapel is that if you really wanted to go in there and test it with what was supposed to be readily available at that time frame, you would essentially need someone who with a good pair of lungs, and I mean, what's that?
No necessarily, because you can get keyboards now that can mimic people's voices.
Nah. I have reason for this, Chris.
Okay.
You wouldn't actually need somebody who has the type of range to where they could shatter glass with their voice.
Wow. Right.
They would need to be able to have that type of range and be able to move with it easily, and that's something that takes training. I mean, I've actually gotten close to it myself, but my voice will start cracking right as you start to see the glass to vibrate, so you're probably safe from me.
There was tests done in the early 80s, 90s at Rosslyn Chapel where this guy, I can't mind his name off the top of my head, and he actually tamed the cubes, and he actually made sound waves, and when he did it, he noticed, and this is an actual fact, it was weird. It was as if time slowed down inside the church.
Mm-hmm.
Because his watch would, just hypothetically, it was 10:30 in the morning, right? Right? No one's watch. So he would get in the church, it would days, he was saying, we'd play the music, then we'd come back out, and he'd be like, wait a minute, my watch is 10:30, but it's only like, it's 11:30. Weird things like that would happen. Like time fluctuation, but very, very, very minor. So it makes you wonder what that is that's in there. Yes, it could help you, and maybe it could cure you and make you live forever, but then again, maybe it's not that. Because the church doesn't look like a church, it looks like something else. It looks like, a lot of people have predicted that it's like a gateway. Right? Like maybe a Stargate. That might be it. That's maybe why it's sealed up. That's maybe why the tomb is sealed up with everything inside it. Maybe it's a gateway.
In theory, everything that you're talking about that can be done with technology can be done with just the human body. Like I said, in kind of a little thought experiment. Like I said, somebody who has some serious range, a good set of lungs, you have them stand in the center of the chapel. You would be able to induce those effects, not needing any sort of technology. And like I've tried to say to people several times before, if we use the analogy of the river or time, time is not a river, it's an ocean. And just like water in the river, anything that's in it can actually affect it. And if you induce enough pressure with sound waves, you can actually redirect blood flow and redirect the flow of time. Barry Fitzgerald, in his book, The Deception of Gods and Men, I don't remember if you remember this part, Chris, but he actually talked about certain regions where there were so many magnetic anomalies, which, again, still is frequencies, that he was actually able to measure that time flowed differently in those regions.
See, it's quite interesting you say that, because where Rosslyn Chapel is built, Rosslyn Chapel 1 faces the wrong direction for a church. All churches are built facing a certain direction, right? Rosslyn Chapel doesn't face that direction for some weird reason. 2, Rosslyn Chapel is built on one of the most powerful ley lines in Scotland. And seemingly it's been known for spiritual, spirits being seen, and that seemingly people go, what do you call that with the rods? Dowsing rods. Dowsing rods, yeah. And the energy's off the scale. So what happens if, right, the power's running through this building, right, whatever this building is, right, there's a code, it's in the music, the music's the frequency, you go in there, you sing that frequency, right, it activates something, and a portal opens up, causing 2 things to happen. 1, time to slow down, and 2, a gateway to be opened for you to cross somewhere.
Here's the thing, as I was saying, the time distortion. Let's think about it. Let's branch out a little bit. UFO abduction scenarios. Time slips. Think about it.
Yeah.
The magnetic anomalies, the sights of spirits, they may not actually be spirits.
No, they might be something else.
No, I was just saying.
Slips in time.
Those anomalies could very well be the beginning stages of something opening.
Yeah.
But we haven't just been able to sustain it. Here's another thought, and something I was got to talk about when you talked about the Holy Grail, right? Some scholars actually believe that the 30 lost years of Christ, he actually went to explore Buddhism. He actually traveled to India, the Himalayas. What if it wasn't like a goblet, but a meditation bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
With the tones, with the meditation bowl.
Think about it. We're dealing with times where you would have to travel miles and miles and miles on foot to be able to see that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you didn't do that on the regular, you're going to see a bowl. You're just going to think, oh, it's a bowl. You implement the fact that, and we see it every day when we deal with social media, that people don't pay attention and remember details exactly, inducing the longest game of telephone ever.
Yeah.
It could have easily been turned into a goblet or a cup, but nevertheless, something about that artifact triggers it.
But just think about this, right? That church was built in 1495 or something like that, 1500, right? But before that, there was stuff there. There's Rosslyn Castle, which is much, much older, right next to it. It could have been kept there, and it could have been moved, right, once they'd finished building this place. Now, let's just think about this, right? These Knights Templars, right, they built this place. The Masonics, the Masons built it for the Knights Templars. Now let's think about this. This is Scotland. We had the bagpipes and we had some other kind of musical instruments, right? Mm-hmm. But we didn't have Buddhist things like that, right? But you had to think how they were thinking at the time. They didn't know what the technology was going to be like 500 years for them, right? They didn't know what was going to happen unless they did. unless they did. Unless they seen into the future and thought, "Ken, something, we need to make something that people in the future will be able to read, because we can't." But they had to do it the way they understood. You see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, say for instance, 10 years later, somebody went into that church and found the bowl that made the tones, right? But just bear this in mind, this is a Scottish person that's never been to like somewhere like that, Tibet or anything like that. They'd be like, "Oh, that's a good bowl, I'll have my porridge in it."
Exactly.
Right? They wouldn't know what it was. The left clues, come on, the Knights Templars, the Masons, the left clues, the left angels playing flutes, and the left angels playing other musical instruments, just to keep you on the right path. It's musical instruments.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if whatever's in there will let you see in the future, and maybe there's a warning there? See where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been... I think you need to come out, man. We need to do an experiment in there. Play the tones. Because I just feel that the Knights Templars, they weren't stupid, right? The Masons were not stupid. I was friends with a Mason, and people were like, "Oh, you're the devil worshipper, you're the devil worshipper." Look, the Masons aren't as bad as you think they are. I'm not a Mason, but just listen to me. This man, he was in his 90s, and he started telling me stuff. Okay, he says, "Well, I'm near the end anyway, come at me," right? And I says to him, just one night, "Listen," I says, "is the Holy Grail a cup? Is that what you protect?" And he says, No, I can't get into it, but it's not a cup." And I says to him, "Is it a bloodline?" And he just looked at me and grinned, and he went, No, it's not a bloodline." I says, "Well, what is it then? And he says, "It's something else, much, much older. But it's something that has to be protected for nearly ever. So what could that be? What could be something much, much older, but must be protected forever? So is this whatever's in there being protected because it was older than Christ?"
Could very well be it, because the Vicar of Christ, as we know it, could actually be one of the earliest documented cases of a starseed gaining public notoriety.
Yeah.
That's what did him in.
See what I've always found interesting is that the Masonic Lodge has always interested me. Just with some of the strange rituals they do, right? Mm-hmm. And especially with the Eastern Star, right? That's, if one is watching this, that's the women's version of the Masons. You came up and talking about the Eastern Star.
Yeah.
Right? Why call it the Eastern Star? Why? Think about it. Why would you call it the Eastern Star? And then the Masons are... And it's the same with the Masons. If anybody's ever been into Masons or true Masons, and I don't mean one of these, and I've got to say the word again, I'm not offending anybody. I'm not talking about the American lodge that was made in the 1800s or 1900s. I'm talking about the Scottish Freemasonry, one of the oldest Freemasonry in the world, which is Scottish Freemasonry. If you ever go into one of these, because I live right next to one of the oldest Masonic lodges in the world, right? If you go in there, when you walk in, on the floor, there's a map of the world, and it's got the what do you call it? It's like a compass. You know what I'm talking about, right? And all the flat earthers will be like, "Oh no, it's because it's flat." And it's no that. If you look round about, there's planets and stuff and walls and things like that. They like to replay events. That's how. Did you ken that's how degrees go up in the Masons? They play out little things. They're like, right, I'm just going to make something up here, right, because I don't know what goes on because I'm not a Mason. They'll have a play, the eastern sun will set in the west, and the guy will come out with his sword, and he'll play it like a play that you would get at the TV programme, right? Like a film. And then after that Mason will become, for level 1, he'll go to level 2. And every time that they replay this, they gain a level. You see where I'm going here? Mm. When you get to a level 6 Mason, you can wear the jewellery. Because you can't wear a jewellery unless you're over 5. Right? You cannot, it's not allowed. The Masonic Lodge shops and stuff like that, they will not sell you unless you can prove that you're over a certain degree. You've got to have a degree 5 or 6. The 33 degree Mason. A 33 degree Mason, and I ken this for a fact, my grandpa was a Mason. A lot of my family were Masons. To become a 33 degree Mason, you must trust in your brothers. You get me? Mm-hmm. And I don't really want to get into how you get that trust, but you have to trust them. You do something, right? Do you ken what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. How you gain your trust? Do you know how to gain their trust? Do you want to say?
Yeah. I've heard things, but granted, it's from the American side of things, so may not be 100%.
There is a 34th degree. A lot of folk don't realise this. There is a 34th degree, right? And that gives you all knowledge. That gives you all knowledge of everything and what's coming, right? This is what I've learned. The people have told me this. And it doesn't really matter for them because they're dead, so it's not as if they've got to get hunted down or anything like that. But some of the plays that they relive, right, that they do, the plays, because that's what it all is. When you're in the Masonic Lodge, you go through these plays, and it's just like a movie, right? It's like acting, right? And every time you manage this, you go up a degree, right? But what I'm saying is, everything in the Masonic Lodge has got more to do with space than the Earth. It's to do with different planets. It's to do with moons and suns and different planets. Does that not tell you something? Does that not tell you maybe the Masons are guarding something much, much older?
A looking glass.
Yeah, something like that. Because they seem to know things.
Like we had the story of the chronovisor in the Vatican, which is supposed to be like a camera that can go through time. And you also have, say, like Elena, she details in her latest book that she's actually seen a device that seems to look and operate kind of like a Stargate, but you set the intention of what time and place you would like to view in your mind, and it'll let you look into that. With these types of technologies that we're talking about,
use frequencies.
You can either use a machine's help, or if someone has a psychic disposition, they won't need a machine. No. And talk about like a 33 degree Masons. You're also going into like Club 33 at fucking Disney that Tom Hanks is allegedly a member of.
That's right. But here's what it gets interesting. I'm trying to get a Masonic Mason to come on and talk about this. He has to ask the Grand Lodge first if he's allowed to. Right. Why do you think the Knights Templars were all murdered? What's your belief in that? Why do you think they were all murdered?
They would have to be guarding something that somebody else wanted bad.
The church wanted it. The church wanted it. The Pope wanted it. The Pope murdered them all. Friday the 13th, right? Friday the 13th. That's how Friday the 13th came about. It's because they were all murdered that day, right? They say that because the Knights Templars were growing richer than the Pope and stuff like that, right? That wasn't the case. They were guarding something, right? What does that church like to collect? It collects things. The Vatican vaults are meant to be huge underneath Vatican City. Through strange technologies, strange things throughout the ages, they wanted what they were guarding. And they didn't get it, so they all get murdered. Well, they thought they all get murdered. See, a lot of folk don't realise this, but you see how you get these people that say they're Knights Templars. Aye, they're Knights Templars, but they're no real Knights Templars. They're no real Knights Templars. Real Knights Templars are rare. There's no many of them. I ken this for a fact. There's no many of them. There are very few, and in between. You get millionaires and billionaires that like to call themselves Knights Templars, right? And dress up and march about with swords and stuff like that, right? They're no Knights Templars. They're no real Knights Templars, right? They were trying to protect something that used frequencies. And it was either something that healed you, or it was something that changed, taken you somewhere, or changed the fabric of space and time. Think about it. It's interesting. It's Rosslyn Chapel. I'll probably never know what happened there. And Dakota, you'll probably never know. And the people watching this will probably never know until our day comes and we go into the light and stuff like that. And we get all the knowledge of the universe and stuff. I just think whatever's there, the new, might help the human race. But is it still there? That's the question. Is it still there? Because the church was shut for 2 years. So-called renovations. And you're not allowed to do any, what do you call it, photography in there now, which I find very strange. Now, there's only two things that worry me there for that. One, there's stuff there that they've uncovered that they don't want people to film. Or two, there's stuff missing that they don't want people to see.
Could very well be a case of both.
Yeah.
Renovations would be the perfect excuse, and even if they did do renovations, just to help keep with maintenance, just to help keep the building standing, because if you leave something for too long, it's going to rot, no matter how well it's built.
See, the interesting thing about Rosslyn Chapel was this, is, Dakota, that while the renovations were going on, there was also scientists doing experiments.
Yeah.
It's public knowledge. I think they were looking for something. And I think they might have found it. But going back to the resonance and frequencies, there's been frequencies picked up in the area round about the chapel. So, is there something in there that's giving off frequencies? Maybe it's too dangerous to go near without unlocking the code. Maybe you have to unlock the code to go near it. Because if you go near it might kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You talk about like the Ark of the Covenant, where you say that like bolts of lightning would shoot out and kill everybody and practically rot them from the inside. A lot of the descriptions of people who have actually fallen ill to these types of religious artifacts, not just talking the Holy Grail or anything, they sound like severe cases of radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with light, sound, frequency, EMF. Yeah, all of that is a form of radiation. Like Chris was talking about earlier, everything from the sun in the sky to the fish and the plants that you walk all over, all of them have frequencies. Nature sings. And you can actually be able to decode what it's trying to say quite easily if you know what to look for.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, who's to say that some of this technology, we didn't find a way to merge this technology to where it worked with the flow of the universe, not necessarily derived anything from it or poisoned it with like how most of our technology does now, but it actually worked with the flow of the universe, and we had some truly astonishing things that tens of thousands of years ago we would associate with gods.
Yes. See, it's like the UFOs. Why did they turn up when you play certain tones?
And I got to thinking about it. I finally actually sat down and listened to the Rosslyn Chapel frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what it reminded me of?
What?
the King's Chambers tones from the CE5 program.
Yeah.
And you saw what happened to me when we played that for the first time. My God.
Oh my God, yeah.
So yeah, apparently Nazis may be involved in this, but that's a story for another time, as dear old Mike would say.
That's what Mike would say. But I mean...
Drink.
I was just going to have a drink there, but I haven't. I wonder what would happen if you played the CE5 tones near that chapel.
You'll definitely get a reaction.
I mean, you don't need to be inside it. You can walk around about it. So all you need to do, there's seats all around about it. All you need to do is wait for a quiet day. Go and sit down. Take your phone out and hit play and just sit it there.
I would want to do something that was a little bit, that distributed the sound a little bit more evenly, but that's just me being picky.
See, I find it interesting that you're allowed to take your phones in, but you're meant to turn them off, because I was reading all about the chapel. Right, so you're not meant to use the phones. Phones give out frequencies. Right? What if there's something in there that will react? Maybe they've turned it on.
It's a lot of the same reason why they say you shouldn't have your phone on or not turned on to airplane mode when you get on an airplane. Yeah. So you can actually mess with stuff on the plane and cause a collision. And let's face it, kind of jumping into the UFO phenomenon. You know, there's people that try to ask Elena, oh, if you have all this evidence, all these encounters, why haven't you taken pictures? Don't you think a woman like Elena would if she could?
Because the UFOs have got a terrible, terrible, terrible habit of distorting people's cameras, and then people will go, but I was on TikTok and I seen a giant ship and it flew about. Look, 99% of the videos on TikTok are fake, right?
Yeah, look, you have to realize severe enough EMF outputs it does not take much to cause interference with electrical devices that we have nowadays, unless you have that wrapped in a 6-inch fucking lead box. You can get a little tool for like $200 that can be able to read all your signals off of your phone. You can hack into all sorts of technology.
You're talking about that flipper?
Yeah, I want one.
I seen one on YouTube and I thought to myself, I said, that looks good. Standing outside shops and all that, changing channels and their TVs.
Yeah, it's like hijack people's key fobs on their for their cars and set off their alarms. But that's just me being evil.
I know, that's just terrible, Dakota. That's just terrible. But have you tried, Dakota? Have you tried? Do you think you can make tones up using the cubes in Rosslyn Chapel?
Oh, it's not a matter if it's technically already been done.
But doing it in the same way as the CE5 tones are made. Because that one that I played on YouTube didn't really sound like the CE5 tones. It didn't have the same feeling. It didn't really have the flavour.
Okay.
If you get my drift.
You have to realize a lot of the CE5 tones that are readily accessible, the ones that are available on Dr. Greer's app, those were actually audible anomalies picked up that were recreated.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is one of those things where you don't necessarily need to have sophisticated tech. You just need somebody with a good pair of ears and knows what the hell they're doing. It's like the way I did it is a process called sonification, which basically just embeds, it converts pictures into sound. And there's a song out there where someone actually took pictures of his cat and put it throughout.
See, it's quite interesting because the CE5 tones, there's one of them where it's music played inside the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, it's a actual choir that's supposed to have been, again, essentially like a reenactment of concerts that would have been done during Egyptian times. Mm-hmm. And ladies and gentlemen, you can actually go back to that episode, ladies and gentlemen, and that was one of the worst trance episodes I've ever had. Not that it was a bad thing, it was just that it was so strong, and I would literally start seeing crap like right outside my window. Where I'm sitting right now, it's just...
I would like to recreate that inside Rosslyn Chapel.
It would be interesting.
And you know something? I would like to get Dr. Stephen Greer's thoughts on Rosslyn Chapel.
If we can just get him to actually come on the fucking show. It's not like I haven't tried.
Dr. Stephen Greer, please come on. Please. Dakota will do anything you want.
I know he's been checking our stuff out, man.
I know.
I know he has. Or at least whoever runs his social media accounts, because, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you can actually look and see who's watched your stuff, and it's Dr. Greer's verified accounts have actually popped up on a few occasions. I was like, all right, come on, I want to talk to you. I have some questions.
I think it would be interesting, and I would like to go there at night time when the place is shut, but you can still walk around about it, right? And play the tones at night to see if her little friends turn up.
Without a doubt, somebody will turn up.
Oh yeah, local police constabulary say, "What you doing?" "Oh, I'm just out for a lovely midnight stroll in the fresh air." Aye, but your cousins are geared with aerials and things and flashy lights. That's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm waiting for E.T. A week later, I'd be inside a Paddy's cell. What be it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's such a shift going on in the world right now. I'll say it. I'm probably one of the only few people around here that a cop would believe if I were to get pulled over for speeding because I was chasing a UFO.
It's like everything on TikTok with the balloons, you know. It's like everybody. I've got sane people that didn't believe in UFOs coming to me now and saying, "Did you know that aliens exist and they've been flying over America?" And I look at them and I say to myself, they're balloons, they're distraction, it's not what you think it is.
Oh, and but closer to the end of the show, I have a rant about that, about some of the latest stuff, and Chris knows exactly what I'm talking about.
So, are you talking about the one, the one that was shot down out of the kind of cold?
No, not the shutdown one, because if I'm not mistaken, they're still looking for that wreckage.
No, they've been looking for it for a while. It was white, and it landed in snow.
Snow, yeah. No, I'm talking about the number of people who tried to say that the planetary alignment of Jupiter and Venus was a UFO. I know you seen the reports over there because we had them over here too. Ladies and gentlemen, get yourself a fucking star app on your phone if you want to start claiming shits in the sky, because that can actually help you identify what you're looking at. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, earlier this week there was supposed to be an actual astronomical alignment where you could look up into the sky and clearly see the planets, Venus and Jupiter, sitting right next to each other. If you had a good enough camera or telescope, you could actually see the moons of Jupiter orbiting around it. Really cool.
I seen it. Listen, I seen it, Teddy Dakota. And people are like, "Oh my God, it's the two of them!"
And they're like, "Oh my God, it's a UFO!" I was like, "Oh my God, you failed science!"
No, there was ones. What planets were they again? Jupiter and what? Venus?
Jupiter and Venus.
Because there was one guy and he was like, "Oh my God, Jupiter and Venus are going to collide. We're doomed. We're doomed." Look, that's billions of miles apart, and I mean billions of miles apart.
They just look close because of where we're sitting, you morons. And I'm going to say it, morons!
It's you get them. Yeah, I mean, you get them.
I don't know how Elena stays so classy when she goes on these rants, man.
I was shocked the other night when she went into that rant about the UFOs over America. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I've never heard that one.
This. Helena.
Yeah, we love you, Elena, but I know. I'm just saying. I don't know how you do it. You know, mad respect for you, woman. Mad respect.
She was so calm, but I've never seen her swear before. I was taken aback. I was like, "Oh my God, the invasion of the body snatchers! What's going on?" I was hiding, and I thought,
I have another rant that I saw in with one of the chats of Elena's, but that's a story for another time. To Mike. Yeah. My God, if that man were still alive, he'd have a commentary on this shit.
Oh, it's...
Fuck, he probably does, and we should do like a spirit box session one night.
We should do that on Halloween night. You know?
Oh, did you see that we actually had a request for, well, not necessarily for Halloween, but I think that would be the best time to do it. We actually had a request to dress up for a show.
Who said that?
It's someone that saw the Elena interview. They were asking, actually that's what it was. Having us both come on dressed as Uncle Fester.
So basically all we really need to do is take our headphones off and we'll look like Uncle Fester.
Yeah, and get a little eyeliner.
We're absolutely cookie. We're absolutely cookie. The Bald and Bonker boys.
Okay, that actually works really well. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
I know. So we've got about 10 minutes left of the show, so who are the two amazing guests that's coming on tomorrow, Dakota?
I don't know about amazing. You know,
they're amazing. I think they're great, because we were on their show twice.
Oh, yeah. This is, honestly, I'll say that, let's see if we can actually get Jenny to be speechless again. We'll have a bet. We should set up a bet with Nando off camera and see if...
Nando kept asking you about the drums of lube. He's a strange person, Nando, isn't he?
Yeah, no, that's the one you can physically see raise up in his chair every time we talked about probing and like he was clenching.
Anyway, he would go...
Where I was talking about that, there's actual science behind probing.
Huh? Yeah, we're running
Bigger said I would know about that. You can lock up your windows, you can lock up your doors, but that hell ain't gonna do nothing because we're gonna come through your walls.
So another question for you: have we had any hate mail this week or any other types of mail?
Well, Chris, there was actually something I had to ask you about.
Oh, yes. Fire away, young man.
Mr. Big Mule 69. Someone sent me a link to an OnlyFans account.
What?
It looks an awful lot like you.
Really? What do you mean?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I've not got an OnlyFans.
It sure as shit looks like you, man.
Send me the link to know. Send it to me.
Alright, just give me a second. I'm pulling up my phone.
See the things that he looks up, ladies and gentlemen, between the probing and the oil and the stuff. Terrible.
Well, technically, OnlyFans was supposed to be a version of Patreon, but then horny chicks ruined it. Well, not so much, but...
Yeah. He seems to know quite a lot about this. I think he's got an account himself, you know. You say it's no you and you've just bought a pair of specs so you can see the screen?
Well, I'm not old, so...
That's terrible.
I don't need specs, but here...
Hey, come on, send me the link then.
It's like, I'll say, here we go. Alright, just sent it.
Aye, very good. Here it is.
Did you actually believe me?
No, I didn't believe you. But honestly, sometimes, you know, but isn't it the complaining? And you know, I like a complaint when somebody comes in to complain.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We've made it pretty well known that Dakota isn't afraid to tell people to go fuck themselves when he gets his temper set off. So I think certain people are afraid.
Oh
well.
Is there any ladies out there that are single? On the other hand, this young chap here is single. And if you're in the American area, well, if you're in America, this young, handsome 75-year-old will take you out on a hot date.
I get plenty of those requests without your help, Christopher.
Do you still get weird messages like Mike used to get?
No, I actually would get women.
Because Mike used to get some strange messages. He would share them.
Yeah, Mike was telling about how you two would exchange dick pics.
Well, you know what Mike used to do? Mike used to... Well, I mean, that night he came on, what show was that he came on? He was going on about the paranormal titties.
Oh, God. What one was that? Oh,
We
shit.
need to rerun that. We need to rerun that again.
Oh, it's like, you do realize we've done over 100 episodes of this, right?
Really? Has it been that many?
Yeah, apparently it has.
For all you fans out there, and I know you're out there, and you love me. You know, well, I'm talking to the folk that got me banned off Parapost for only £5.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, from what I've heard about Parapost, you need to check to see if you can actually access the archival data for the Facebook page, which should be able to be done, because nothing truly gets deleted on Facebook, no matter how much you try to cover your tracks. So that's my little piece on it. That's all.
I mean, I find it funny. You know, I find it funny. But then again, it's quite a dodgy thing, because if they go in and delete the records...
Yeah, but here's the thing. Again, it's not going to be deleted on Facebook's end, and you can request everything Facebook has collected on you. Especially if you run a public page like Parapost.
Now, that's just for you, Brian. You go out there and you find that bad manner with me.
I know we butt heads, but hint, hint, nudge, nudge, as Chris would always say. There's your tip on how to deal with that. That would be my net recommendation if you haven't tried it already.
Exactly. So, is there any more company news? What about
the company news? Let me see.
4
Well,
minutes.
we now have the Bald and Bonkers only. I'm just kidding.
There'll be some guys out there wanting to look at you.
Yeah, well, I think I need to recruit some of the ladies that are coming up. So we do have the Amazon shop, which are product recommendations. And yes, I know there's quite a few things on there that say currently unavailable, but I mean, you can find books from myself. You can find the protection tones that I've created, some songs I did, plus book recommendations, investigation gear on there. It helps us gain commission, so that way we can fund everything. Soon, we will also be accepting applications for people to join the Bald and Bonkers TV network and potentially be able to earn a little extra income from that, which would be very nice for all of us. I know it's not about the money, Dakota. It's like, let's face it, having a little extra cash when the bag of chips is fucking $5 a piece.
I know. I mean, that's just shocking. That is just shocking. You know, if we're still here after doing the controversial video we did last week.
I know. I am shocked that has actually not been flagged by anything.
Has it not been flagged?
No.
Wow.
I was honestly shocked that we went through that episode without technical issues.
Wow. Somebody must be watching this.
But that actually, just speaking of issues, that just reminded me of something. Being that we do release these episodes to the rest of our avenues about a week later. Next week on Sunday, there is something taking place in which I must ask for a prayer from my mother, because some troubling times are ahead. Her youngest daughter, who cannot make a decent decision while sober, is officially turning legal drinking age next week. Chris knows exactly what I mean, because he's heard me tell him about some of the stuff she's pulled.
What's her name? Did she watch the show?
Well, she knows about it, but I don't think she's ever watched it. So that'd be my sister Presley, who turns 21 next week. Dear God, I'm getting old.
See, ladies and gentlemen.
It's like, let's have a prayer. And for everybody who, I've got to backtrack, we did kind of get some concerned messages from when I was on Ghost Squad Scotland with you.
Why?
Because I called you an asshole about my grandma's surgery.
Who sent you messages about that? You're only joking
but not okay. Now there's some people who were asking what that was about, and for those of you who don't know, a few weeks ago, my grandmother and 16-year-old cousin were actually in a rollover accident. My grandma took the worst of it. Even though she was buckled in the car, she got partially ejected to where the car cut up her legs pretty good. She had to drag herself back into the car once they stopped rolling. I think they rolled like 6 times. The day I went on Ghost Squad Scotland with Chris, I was on standby because my grandma was going into surgery.
Yeah, I know.
Because necrosis was actually setting in her leg, which means that she had rotting skin actually starting to build up. Surgery went well. Apparently she was in and out after an hour and was able to drive herself home, even though she technically has a hole in her leg.
Yeah.
But she's okay. My cousin's okay. Everybody's getting better.
You've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, we joke about all the time. We like to have a laugh. It's only fun.
I know, and it was just like part of the reason why Chris was starting to feel like an asshole was because he also knows that same grandmother also dealt with a pretty serious heart attack, and that's actually been some of the complications.
I didn't actually know it Wednesday night. I thought you maybe slept in again like the Tuesday night.
Oh.
See,
no, I was...
Tell me, you see. You didn't tell me.
I did tell you that my grandma was having surgery that day.
You came up, I'm like, I'm Scottish. I don't fucking listen.
That explains what's right there. But no, we got that coming up.
Who messaged you?
Well, I did notice that I think Mystical Love and Light was actually asking in the chat if I was okay. Just like, yeah, everybody's fine. Just, bad luck with the hospital for 2023, that's all.
It'll be absolutely fine. You've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, me and Dakota joke about all the time, and that's why we're called Bald and Bonkers,
I know, I rip on Chris, and he rips on me, but that's just what makes the show work. My God.
But anyway, we shall go now. We will go into the night. I was going to come in. Well, maybe we've got a Patreon to tell about.
We have the Patreon, yes. Let's linger on about just a little longer so we can actually get the Patreon link in the chat.
If you want these episodes early, like maybe a week early, you should pay $1 a month and you can listen to it early.
Early access to shows, information on future guests, company updates before anybody else gets them. Plus, there's been clips of a special that I'm actually putting together, and just so I make sure I don't veer too off a direction because of how easy it is to get me distracted, Christopher.
What's that?
I am actually using an AI program to put all this together. But for those of you who've been wondering about my ET stuff, especially after we revealed on air that Elena and I had connections, I'm putting together a little special that details everything I know. I'm just going to say, for those of you who don't realize that the Galactic Federation is a military organization, meaning that they ain't afraid to kick some ass if they had to, hence the other rant that I was mentioning, because people started thinking that it was all love and light and flower power. Fuck off! They have weapons for a reason, motherfuckers. Anyway, for those of you who've been curious about the story and realize that there's so much more to it that won't fit in an hour-long show, I'm putting something together that details everything, and let's just say even Elena's impressed with how much I have.
There you go. That'll be interesting. When will that be? A while?
I'm still working on putting it together, so we'll see what happens. Like I said, we have all sorts of plans coming together. We have new system dashboards for those of us who join us. We're also looking on the early stages of developing our own version of Netflix. As well as the Bald and Bonkers TV network. We have merch. We have all sorts of cool stuff coming together. I think that covers everything.
I think it does. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all have a fantastic night and look forward to the show coming tomorrow. Tomorrow for you. It's actually, it'll be a week when you see this. It'll be a week past for us. So You never know what could have happened then.
Well, that depends. They could be the people that are watching us on Twitch right now, and they get to see the live.
I would just like to say to the people on Twitch, thank you very much. I think there's one on Twitch. There's one in Bald and Bonkers. 2 in Twitch. Thank you very much, whoever you are out there. Thank you very much. Can you please give us a thumbs up if you put thumbs up on Twitch?
You need to get on Twitch more, but anyway.
I never go on Twitch.
Yeah, show us some love wherever you find us. We have all the links in our flow code, which should be in the episode description. We have a new Telegram that, we opened up to having discussions.
You just remembered me. I meant to say that about Telegram.
We have like I said, all sorts of fun stuff. We have merch shops. We're everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We ain't going anywhere anytime soon, and even if the world commits us to dust, there's plenty of evidence of us to still remain.
So, catch you later, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah. Got him!
You know that.